Hi, this is my review of University of Colorado's virtual science simulations. University of Colorado has a collection of different labs and simulations to use. Today I'm going to focus mainly on their forces and motions basic simulations, since I've personally used these in my classroom. These are great simulations to allow for practicing and experimenting with those concepts of forces and motions. I even use these with fourth graders, so even though they can get pretty complicated if you add more and more variables, they're still pretty easy to understand, even at the simplest level. These allow students to play around and try out different forces, different variables, and giving them some time to just experiment and play around. So even though it's pretty education-based, my students still found it pretty entertaining. I paired these simulations with a collection of open-ended questions that I came up with for my students to answer as well, such as what happens when you add more weight, what happens when you change direction of force, just so I could also check for their understanding. I would highly recommend these simulations, especially in this time of virtual schooling, because I really struggled with the idea of how to get my virtual students involved with labs, and this let them be a part of it as well without having to worry about extra equipment or sending extra materials home. They could easily do this while they were online with us. And also my students here in person got the opportunity to experiment without a lot of extra prep and still seeing some pretty big controlled experiments and things happen when they played around, and offered them a lot more than I would be able to offer with the resources that I have. I would place this probably more towards the education side of that edutainment spectrum, though I still think that my students definitely had fun playing around with these labs.